I hope everybody out there is doing fine. And welcome back to my channel and to another episode of Missing Kids, discussing the life and times of the murder suspect. And as you know, we have just discussed some new evidence that came out in the case of Madeleine McCann. However, today we are going to be focused on his ongoing trial, which involves other unrelated crimes, allegedly. So let's get into this and see how this episode goes, because it really is kind of a lot to digest all in one sitting. So let's get started. So this past week, I think it was on Tuesday, the legal team that is defending the Madeleine McCann prime suspect in his trial for unrelated offenses is attempting to have a key piece of evidence thrown out of court. And so you might be asking, why is it supposed to be thrown out of court? Well, the legal team is arguing that I believe it would have been the German investigators, broke international law in obtaining this piece of evidence. And so basically it means that the prosecutors cheated. They went against typical standards that are acceptable for court trials. Now, let me explain a little bit more. The German police were previously handed the prime suspect's hard drive by an unnamed female witness. It was a female witness who came from Portugal, and that USB or drive contains some very unwholesome and disgusting cartoons that allegedly were created by the prime suspect. So it would appear that the prime suspect has been essentially hiding some of his secret talents, like writing and creating cartoons or cartoon strips. And so, yes, these were indeed penned by the prime suspect. In our most recent upload, the prime suspect penned a fantasy story, which is also pretty disgusting. And it is alleged that he wrote that dark fantasy story regarding two victims who were abused by their captor. So the prime suspect's team demands that the regional court of Brueckner, that this legal court does away with this evidence and not officially allow or admit the hard drive as part of court evidence. And so the suspect's lawyer is claiming that this must not be allowed because the German police can't simply just go and secure evidence in another country without the proper authorization. In other words, it was stolen. Nobody knew what was going on. Nobody knew who had the evidence. And so therefore the legal team doesn't even know what is on that hard drive. Also, the Portuguese authorities were not informed of this USB. And it is almost as if the German police just went to England and started carrying out a police investigation and then went to Portugal to seize evidence, and they flew it back to Germany. Well, yeah, um, German police were involved. They have been at least since last spring. So this is not really a surprise to me. And I believe that the outrage is more against how this evidence was obtained. The details of the contents in the hard drive were in fact provided Tuesday in court by Titus Stamos, a detective in this trial. Now, the credentials of this Detective Stamos are equivalent to that of a detective commissioner for the Federal Criminal Police, or, in fact, Germany's equivalent of the FBI. And so, alongside the details of the hard drive, Stampa revealed that the prime suspect had 3 email accounts at the time that Madeleine McCann vanished. And 2 of them were in fact used to send images back and forth. To who? I don't know. And what exactly they were? Well, I believe that it was more unwholesome content. And so that is being kept under wraps for now. So it's been discovered that Stampa and his police colleagues applied to Microsoft Ireland in 2017 to try to secure access to the account, I believe it was Hotmail account, which after undergoing extensive procedures, they eventually were granted this permission, finally in 2018. So this investigation has been going on for quite some time. I didn't know that. The investigators then discovered was that the inboxes of these Hotmail accounts had been completely emptied. Massive deletions. For the first half of 2007, before Madeleine McCann went missing, which includes the time up to the time that Maddie McCann did vanish. Now, when investigators checked the account outboxes, they also discovered that the prime suspect had sent a multitude of files with very obscene photo attachments. And now, again, what exactly, who were, and who, let me rephrase that. Who exactly were in the photos, I'm not too sure. I don't know if Madeleine McCann is in there at all, but the photos also included various versions of 2 stories. The mother-daughter story, which I've been telling you about in the previous vlog that where we reviewed evidence, and another story. So the first story I've already explained in the other vlog. It deals with a mother and daughter who are captured and abused. It's pretty horrific, allegedly. The second story deals with a group of children who, in the movie, decide to take their revenge out on a child abuser who did harm them. And so the prosecution against all that evidence, it was on the USB stick, which was found during a police search in 2016 in the prime suspects at the prime suspect's farm, and so it's really this other place that where the prime suspect was staying was in Germany, in fact, in 2016. So the defendant's legal team consistently is trying to prevent this story from being made public, from being heard anywhere. And they are trying very hard to keep it under wraps because they don't. I'm not sure what the circumstances are for their objection, but it would probably include a condition that might insinuate that all of this was in fact made up or planted. So, I mean, these things have happened before, right? And so that is why they are really pushing to have this evidence thrown out of court. They also argued that the 2016 police search was quite unauthorized, maybe without an official search warrant, and therefore evidence secured there is not admissible. It may not even be evidence, is probably where this legal team is trying to go with this. So I don't know what to think. Truthfully, I don't know what to think. So this past Tuesday, the German court did hear from the policewoman who informed the court that she, in fact, was there. She admitted to being there. And she also admits to other things. This policewoman even admitted that she knew it was not permissible to be there, trying to take that USB or to take the photos in it or send them on, like to hand them over to police to prompt an investigation. Given all this, it seemed that the prosecution then had no chance of ever revealing the details of this story in court. So I'm not sure if it is actually going to be admissible and allowed or if it was actually thrown out of court. We don't have that detail right in front of us here and now. Regarding a third email, this would be besides those two stories and the photos. Stamper said that he was not authorized to talk about it as it concerned the Madeleine McCann investigation. And so here's where the two cases overlap. And so the prime suspect has always denied any involvement in Madeleine McCann's disappearance. Another critical and objective fact that comes from the emails and whatever is on the USB hard drive is that, as the defense points out, the file with the story on it was a rich text RTF file. And so many of these RTF files do not identify the author. It's not like a Microsoft program that identifies the author or the creator of the document. So whatever had been written about what happened in court, this fact remains, and also even Mr. Stamper admitted in court that they have no way of knowing if the prime suspect wrote the story or not, because, as I said, there is no author attached to the RTF file. And so it's all very sketchy to me, but I would imagine, Now, I'm not saying that I'm defending the prime suspect because I don't know what the truth is. But I imagine that the legal team, his legal team, has made some very valid arguments against using such evidence. You know what I'm saying? Because granted that probably he is very capable of doing something like this, we don't know for sure. And so this is what I was trying to say in earlier vlogs, that if they start pulling these things out of their hat without the proper evidence, and a file can tell a lot about a person, but we don't know who the author was. It could have been anyone. I'm not saying it was. I'm not saying it wasn't. I don't know. But I would imagine in a court of law, things need to be more on the up and up, more transparent. And this USB, it could have been, for all people know, planted there. After all, the suspect spent a good number of years in jail, and so anybody could have gone there and planted it. You know what I'm saying? However, I don't know, and I'm not saying that that is the case. Well, everyone, that is about all that I have for today. And yes, we've had two very interesting trial updates for both cases. And not that the Madeleine McCann trial has even begun yet. If it ever will, I don't know. But this is very interesting indeed. And what I've been talking about with the emails and everything, a lot of that specifically relates to these other unrelated crimes that did not involve Madeleine McCann, but some of it does. That's all I know. And so we'll have to sit tight and wait and see what else the courts will come out with and what the detectives theorize about the evidence and how valid is it? How valid will it be? Well, I guess they have to maybe dig a little further and see. Anyway, that's about all for now. So I hope that you have enjoyed this content and found it very interesting. I have found it so fascinating, and I'm sitting literally on the edge of my seat because I don't know what all this means. I don't know if this will ultimately turn the prime suspect into a guilty party. I don't know what's going to happen. We have to wait and see. And so thank you very much for listening and watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye for now.